This isn't a conversation of worse or better, because I want to be clear about that. I'm not somebody that says alcohol is the danger and you got to run. That's not it at all. It's a different consumer and it's a different experience. And just like you said, it's a lifeline to these manufacturing channels that we can able to expand our audience.
As far as tap rooms, they're not able to serve these types of drinks right now.
Not right now. But what's going in the bill is that.
Okay.
So it would be able to be sold. They would buy basically like New Jersey is. It's a hemp extension permit off their liquor license.
Okay.
So anybody, just like the RTD permits, I think there's 3,200 or something like that, whatever the number is that's sold in the past year.
Welcome back to Brewed Out Podcast. I'm your host, Richie Tevlin, joined as always by Evan Blum.
Hello.
And today we have on Nate Fochtman.
You got it.
I got it. Let's go. We're off to a hot start. So I think this is going to be a really fun podcast. We are going to talk about a lot of things. So I don't know how to describe it. You, FreeMind Nate on Instagram.
Yeah.
You also run a consulting group. You are a craft beer veteran in Philadelphia and the surrounding, not Philadelphia, but like kind of outside.
And I started out in Philadelphia, yeah. Actually,
Okay.
Yeah.
And you just have like this great understanding of really like kind of the beverage industry. But what we are really going to get into today is kind of the hemp-derived THC beverages. I think that I spoke to you on the phone briefly last week, and it really, I'm thinking about these things differently than I was. And I didn't realize kind of the implications about what's going to happen with, how they're going to affect breweries and everything else. And like us being a brewing podcast, I think that a lot of our listening base is going to learn a lot this episode. And really, I haven't, besides your podcast, I haven't heard brewing podcasts talk about this. And I think that it's going to sneak up on people real quick when a lot of this legislation passes. So to kind of get you in here and kind of like explain this to us like we're five is going to make a lot of sense, and I think it's going to be really fun.
No, I'm looking forward to it. It's a really exciting time, and like you said, I've been in the industry, alcohol industry, especially in craft beer, the last 20 years. So it's really awesome to see this next innovation, which I think is going to be not a blip in the pan kind of trend at all.
Yeah. So I guess before we get kind of into what you're doing now, can you just kind of give a background, like a little synopsis about like, what your history is in craft brewing and kind of like what got you to this point?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually started, I was at Drexel University.
Cool.
So I went there for corporate communications, public relations. And while I was there, I was 19 years old working at Hollywood Video over here at 20th and Chestnut. Came back from spring break and they closed. And they all went out of business all across the country. Boss never told me anything, so I didn't have a job. And Origlio Beverage was hiring, and they had a breakage open. And it was like a low-paying job, but I could work my own hours to go in and out of class.
What's breakage?
So breakage is the unspoken hero of the industry in wholesale, where when product falls off, you can reposition the product, and then the larger brands will repack it. So if the product falls off the truck and the cardboard breaks, but the product inside is still usable, you can then take it back. And it's me or some other college kid in a back room with a little boom box and an antenna. And this is 2004. All right. So this is about 21 years ago.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it still exists, to be honest with you. I haven't checked or asked. So it might not be an industry standard, but 21 years ago, I worked with a bunch of...
I was making enough product.
Exactly.
Some margin up there.
Exactly. So every day, and that was the thing, was every day you would finish the pallets that were outside that were broken that came off the trucks. And then every day you came back in, it was a whole new pallet just ready for you the next. It was a constant job going there.
Nice.
So then from there, I kind of worked into going out on the trucks and doing deliveries. So went all over Philadelphia, the 5 counties, learned all the different bars and everything like that. So I MapQuest was going on. I was like giving out directions via bars, and I was only 19. And people were like, "What the heck's going on?" And I'm like, I just knew where every bar was. I knew every bar owner. And I wanted a sales route really bad. And so I was still at Drexel, and everybody's like, stay in school, finish. And I was like, no, I'm ready. I called my dad. I'm like, I'm done. I'm quitting school. I'm going to just join the beer industry. And my dad was like, just finish and get the paperwork. And so I stayed. And then eventually, right in my senior year, one of the sales reps, she went on maternity leave. And so they were like, all right, we got a route open. And it was 18th Street to University City, Art Museum, and Manayunk. And so I was 21 years old, and then got an expense account and went out and started repping brands. And that was when I first was introduced to Sly Fox. And Susie Woods, I'll give her a shout out on that one. I remember being at Rembrandt's or something like that around the art museum.
Susie Woods?
It was Susie Woods. She was the regional sales rep for Sly Fox back then when it first opened out here.
Okay.
She is probably now, at one point then, was with Allagash for a long time.
That's where I know her.
Yeah. Yep.
So she gives me one of those beers, and and my brain just blew up. And I had been drinking. I lived in Philadelphia a little bit, kind of grew up in Levittown and Yardley area, but then I lived in West Virginia for a long time. So drinking craft beer wasn't really a thing. I was used to, Miller Lite, Coors Light, Busch, everything like that. And all of a sudden I get this hoppy beer and I was hooked. And then after that, I went in and all of a sudden the industry, and I started meeting the people, and I started meeting all the brewers, and I just wanted to do anything possible. And stayed in all the way through school. And actually, people used to make fun of me in college because every report I did at Drexel was about beer. So it was like you guys had talked about that interview with Sam Calagione. It was like everything was, I did a whole presentation on beer versus wine when he wrote that book. And then I went out and did all these other, and so I would like any trip I had with Auriglio, I would just recap it and turn it in as an essay at Drexel. And they're all like, what the hell's going on with this guy? So eventually fast forward to that is I graduated in 2008. And then I wanted to take a break from the industry, and I wanted to give back and kind of do some nonprofit work. So I went back to my high school and did some fundraising work.
In West Virginia?
Right above the border. It's Mercersburg Academy. So it's right on the border of Maryland, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania, and Franklin County, Pennsylvania, H-Town 81.
I lived in Frederick for a couple of years.
There you go. So yeah, Mercersburg Academy. Yeah. So I got there and I got a wrestling scholarship there and an academic scholarship, and I wanted to give back and kind of repay. So I spent 2 years there doing the fundraising for the scholarships. Felt like I did my good deed, and I went back in the industry and started this business right now. So I started FreeMind in 2008.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that's how long this business has been around. And my first client was Ace Distributing down in York, Pennsylvania, and they needed to get into the craft beer industry. And I'd already spent time here in Philadelphia, was really kind of ingrained into the craft beer, learned a lot from everybody. And they hired me on as a kind of exclusive contract. And my job for the next 7 years was to build out and fly around the country and train the sales reps at their place, and then recruit breweries around the country to come to Pennsylvania. So I'm the guy behind the scenes, like I was telling you off camera, that for New Belgium, Deschutes, and a bunch of other brands that came here, we did all the prior meetings, flew out there, did all the prep, set all the distribution before we started rolling everything out.
By learning about their whole brand,
exactly,
their philosophies, then you go to the whole share, like, this is how we want you to sell.
Exactly. So go back to the brand story and everything like that. That's exactly it.
Cool.
So Deschutes, went out to the brewery, went out to literally in the Deschutes River, put my feet in there, went to the Black Buttes, experienced it all, and then went back and said, this is who I think you should be with for the state, and chose all the different distributors based on how they would be able to build that brand. I'm speaking about the way it was done back then. Mm-hmm. So I want to be very clear about, I understand the distribution world is not exactly the same, but back then it was very intensive on actually organically building brands that had longevity. So we would take all the salespeople.
I have a lot of opinions about what you just said, which one of the
I'm unique in that. Yeah.
Why craft beer is hurting right now is because people are not doing exactly what you're saying.
This is how we did it.
I just got interviewed by somebody last week, and one of the questions is what do you feel like is why your industry is hurting? And craft beer is not actively selling. I went to to Hemp Beverage last week where they had their winter Christmas festival thing, and there was 5 RTD brands there, and there were 3 breweries, and they are a beer distributor. Yeah. And it's just like, is it because things aren't selling, or because craft breweries are not actively selling the same way that kind of you were actively engaging all these things, this natural growth? It's different, and I don't know. It had me thinking is it because it doesn't not make sense to do that, or is craft beer hurting because they're not doing that still?
I think that there's, from my opinion, is a combination of external factors that were out of everybody's control. The consumer taste changed. It wasn't that anybody did shitty jobs or anything like that. There's a lot of finger pointing, but it's really not.
Yeah.
And we have to be honest that
there's a whole market.
We have to really be honest about a lot of things. And I think the number one thing is from various aspects of the consumption of the consumer. I mean, the consumer taste changed when COVID happened. The consumer's behavior changed, the consumer's place of venue. So you got all those revenue streams where the foot traffic's down inside the brew pub, and then your wholesale's down because they're not buying. You have all these things that are then going down at the same time. And that's why I started the podcast, and I'm happy that you're doing this and we're doing this kind of cross conversation here, because that's where I'm going with this. And that's why I'm traveling to these places, because we're forgetting about the product. We're forgetting about the story behind the product.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then we're like, oh, that brand just went away. Well, no, here's how it happened. Here's the story behind it. And we have to bring back the actual emotional brand story that's there because that's what sold everything in the beginning. That's what the whole story was, where it was like, what's the difference? When I was a brand manager, I would sit in the distributor boardroom, and all day long, it was brands coming in with growlers, some of them with duct tape, some of them with like warm cans. And they were just like, can you sell my stuff? Can you sell my stuff? And I would have to say to them, what is different from you and the other guy with a t-shirt and a dream down the street? And when they fumbled, I wasn't interested in selling their product because I didn't care how good it was. If there was nothing of principle and passion behind it, it wasn't going to go anywhere, because when shit hits the fan, the passion has to be there to build the brand back up.
It's what the flavor is different in craft beer, but it's negligible compared to why people are drinking it. They're drinking it because they want to feel connected to the brand, to the product. And, if you lose that connection, like, what makes your product more premium than somebody else's? That's
exactly it. If somebody, I used to tell people, if they couldn't even see your product at all and they could only taste it, what would they think about? And if they could drink your product, then that would actually think about anybody that learns anything about sensory analysis. I went to Siebel Institute, did all that stuff, Cicero and stuff, all that. It's all about inventory and your brain and the neurogastronomy. When you smell something, what does that smell? Oh, that smell reminds me of something else. So that's all memory based. We're not doing a good enough job as an industry, and this is all industry. We've commoditized certain things to where we're not doing a job to actually setting ourselves to become a core memory. And that core memory, not just being from the tasting room, you have to create that core memory so it transcends on the can so that somebody else can experience that while they're walking through Whole Foods and they're gravitating towards your 4-pack. Mm-hmm. That's where the challenge always has been. Because everybody that comes into distribution has a great story and has a great following at their brew pub, but the story transcending to the can to let somebody who'll never be able to experience and taste and smell their product, that's a whole nother brand story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. People say you drink with your eyes, but I think that there's like an even higher level than that. Like, you drink with your emotions before that, and like this emotional relationship that you have with the brand is even stronger than that. Yes, visually you see it, but like if you have that emotional connection, like that kind of trumps the visual aspect of it.
That's what every great brand that's ever existed has tied into emotions. I look at any long-standing brand; it's always tied to emotion.
Yeah. So, I guess kind of what you're saying is what your job is as this consulting group. Like you're saying it's kind of shifted during COVID?
Well, during COVID, I'll be honest with you, during COVID, I almost lost my house and everything like that.
Yeah.
So the whole thing shifted, and we actually started selling PPE. So I started selling COVID tests, medical supplies, and that started because in the distillery space, literally backstory there is March 15th, March 16th of 2020. All the contracts, all the just cause, acts of God, everybody starts calling. They're like, hey, all the bars are closed in Pennsylvania, so we don't need you anymore. You're just a third-party consultant. I'd respect that. I'm not upset. I'm not angry. Yeah. So then that night, the craziest thing is cops come and they're like, all right, we gotta do all this. We're going to evict you from your house because I was behind on my rent.
Yeah.
And I was behind on my mortgage. I'm sorry. And I'm like, okay, I can't do anything right now. COVID's happening. And all of a sudden that night, the World Health Organization comes out with the new certification that's like, oh, you can produce a sanitizer in a distillery. And I'm like, oh, I know distillers. So I start calling every single distillery I know in Pennsylvania. I'm like, hey, you want to make sanitizer together? And I finally found one that wanted to do it. So we went and got certified. Fast forward, in 1 month, we started a whole sanitizer business, just like a lot of other guys did.
Yeah.
How you all heard that story. But after that ended, my brain was always on wholesale and portfolio basis. So while we're doing sanitizer, I'm reaching out to all the mask manufacturers. I'm reaching out to COVID manufacturers for tests, for gloves. I find all these things, build a network. And then I'm selling to the state of Delaware. I'm selling to the VAs all across. I supplied all the VA homes across Pennsylvania, healthcare networks across Montana, Idaho, down in Texas. And it turned into this thing where I was like, oh, I can do more than just sell beer and walk door to door. And then the business model changed.
Yeah.
Then it was, okay, we don't have to just be here in Pennsylvania. We can be anywhere. So after the whole run of PPE stuff, that was like 2 years, all of a sudden I start calling distilleries and stuff around the country. I'm doing discovery meetings, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to meet these people, but I don't know them. Now my whole thing is I shake hands, I make eye contact, and that's how I trust people. I can't do that over a screen. So I start interviewing people deeply about their lives during my discovery meeting.
To do what with them?
Which is to do work and consult and help them build their business.
Okay.
And what I found was, as I did these discovery meetings, was the founders knew they had a passion for their business, but they were struggling to build the systems and the infrastructure to run the business. And that's when the light bulb started to come, where I was like, I can do founder coaching and market development work from a founder level, not just coming in as a hired gun sales rep that would build a market up for somebody. So then I go into executive coaching, and that's what I'm doing right now is through the podcast. And then we also, behind the scenes that's on the podcast, we're doing founder training, coaching, and then we're building infrastructure systems for their organization.
For all beverage brands?
All beverage brands, in all categories and facets, yeah.
Okay. So would you say you're dealing mostly with RTE brands? Are there beer brands that you're dealing with?
I have a sparkling tea, non-alcoholic brand that's made here in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
I have a few of the hemp THC infused beverages that are made here in PA, and then one down in North Carolina and one in Chicago, and then down in West Virginia. And then we have a distillery that we represent outside of Pittsburgh in the RTD space.
Cool.
And then also with another one here in Pennsylvania too.
Cool.
So yeah, we're spread out across 4 different categories of the beverage, and then we also have through one of the other ones functional beverages. So we're all natural and energy drink styles with cordyceps, lion's mane, all that stuff.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I imagine that there's a lot of in these kind of new markets, the RTDs, the hemp derived, the OTs, kind of everything like that. I imagine that there's a lot of like new players in the game that don't have either beverage experience or brewing experience. They kind of see just this like, blue market of like, I can come in here, and that's kind of like where you come in. Like, I have this expertise that I can kind of like hold your hand through this process. Like, this is how this industry works.
It's cutthroat. I mean, you guys know how the alcohol industry is, and that's where the hemp derived beverages are going to go. Yeah. They're going to go that alcohol channel. They're going to go on those trucks eventually when the legislation passes. And it's a learning curve that is really expensive if you don't have anybody in your corner.
So,
hey, brewery or small business owner, are you tired of navigating complex brewery accounting and taxes on your own? Staying up late working on financials and getting your finances in order after a whole workday? At the Beer Accountant, they understand the unique financial challenges of the craft brewing industry. They're a CPA dedicated to helping breweries like yours thrive, with services ranging from qualified bookkeeping, business tax prep, to strategic financial planning. Stop wasting time on spreadsheets and focus on what you do best: making great beer and running a small business, servicing over 50 breweries in 4 states. So if you own a brewery or small business, stop overpaying for reactive support and start being proactive with the Beer Accountant. Don't brew that IPA without this CPA. Visit beeraccountant.com to learn how their specialized expertise can help your brewery grow, profit, and succeed.
you came onto my radar. I've known who you are. I followed you. But when... This is like a tangent that's kind of like becoming this thing. So first I want to like say the introduction, and then we can get into the farm bill and kind of like jump right into this. So you came on, so the government was shut down. Fucked me over because they shut down the labeling thing. That was not something that I was expecting. So this beer is coming out this week, which is now 6 weeks or something after when this beer's out. Yeah, so this beer has been out. Probably my next beer is out. But regardless, when it kind of like that day that it reopened, they slipped in this thing basically saying that these hemp-derived beverages that I was not thinking about, were thinking of like, this is the enemy as a brewer, because like, craft beer is down for many reasons, weed, dating apps, gambling. There's all these facets that are hurting the sober lifestyle, that are hurting the craft beer industry. So I always saw it as like a negative thing. And then you posted this thing like basically fuck this shit. Like, this is crazy. Just to let everyone know, like, you need to be aware of this. This is going to get canceled. This is, going to hurt all these people. And I sent it to Evan. I was like, yo, I don't agree with him. I'm against this. Like, I don't want this to happen. Like, I'm a craft brewer. I want to be fighting marijuana laws. Like, I should be against that. And then, we just started. I was thinking about some more. We had the High C on. People say
Alagash
tea.
Yep.
They have the THC beverage. I had it. We went to Secondhand Ranch, and I was just thinking about like, how does this? This is the first time we had Enterprise Sports brought it on like last year. But like, I actually thought about like, oh, this is an alcohol brand, and like I'm talking to him. He's basically saying like, we just spun it up and it happened. And like, I'm driving around, I'm thinking about it, and like, I was thinking about you, and I was just like, I called you like literally 5 minutes after I was thinking about it. I was like an epiphany. I'm like, it just came to me. I'm like, I think if there's an alcohol brand selling this now, the whole reason why they shut down, or they basically said next year this is going to end, is because it was basically unregulated. It's like this gray area. So by basically saying, like, putting this cap on, like, you guys have to figure this out in a year from now. Like, obviously, in next year it might fuck over a lot of people, but it kind of punted it to, like, next year, basically being saying, like, you have to figure this out, like alcohol laws, because it is going to be, it's a controlled substance. Like, you have to kind of figure out how it's going to be regulated.
Yes.
So then I was thinking, like, all right, then where does that opportunity lie? Like, as a beer brewer, as an alcohol producer, like, I thought, like, oh shit, it's going to fall on me. You know, like, as somebody that's already doing all these laws, it's going to fall right in everybody's lap. And, like, the fact that people are not fighting it. I mean, I saw Hannah Eisen and, like, the Brewers Pennsylvania were, like, pro this. And in my mind, I'm like, the fuck are they doing? And then, like, I started, like, as I was thinking through this, I'm like, no, they're correct. Like, how it's happening in New Jersey is going to be how it's going to be happening in the rest of the country. And, you know, I talked to you and, like, we kind of walked through it in 5 minutes. I was like, one, you have to come on the podcast so we can talk through this. But it opened my eyes to, like, every brewer is going to have to get involved with this. So with that being said, can we then take a step back to 2018 and talk about the Farm Bill and then jump up to this?
Yeah, so 2018 Farm Bill comes in. I end the contract that I was working with Ace Distributing, so I'm a free agent, and I'm obsessed with the cannabis industry. 2018, I went full bore, started recruiting clients. I was selling gummies. I was selling flour. I don't want to talk about any of the brands that I was selling at that time because it was pre-COAs and all this other stuff. And then I eventually, let's just say I fired a lot of them as I was working with them, as I started realizing. And then all of a sudden started to find the brands that I work with now that are much more, you know, upstanding, everything as far as the self-regulation goes.
Yeah.
But let's go back to the Farm Bill.
Yeah.
Is this Farm Bill happens and all of a sudden, you know, it's one of those things where some people want to call it a loophole, but let's be really honest. Like, a lot of money and a lot of time is spent writing bills to not think about what they claim they didn't know. It really was the fact that I don't think they realized it would garner to be what it did. And there's a lot of different things that happen. And one of the things is, for a lot of people to understand, is they passed it so you could industrial access and make rope and T-shirts and all these different things. And then all of a sudden they realized, you're good.
When you explain that, I don't believe them. I think that they knew that this was going to happen. Who the fuck thinks that they're going to make hemp? Nobody uses hemp rope, but yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, exactly that. So it was egg on their face when they turned out they didn't like it. But what it came down to is the cannabis industry does have an issue right now, and it's one thing that the beer industry has done a great job about with collaboration and being unified. And the cannabis industry has a very big challenge ahead of it in being unified on this concept.
Yeah.
At the same time, the way the laws are passed, it's making it nearly impossible to be unified because the laws will be category segmented. So beverages will be separate from gummies and flour. So you will then look at a THC hemp-infused beverage as a RTD can in Pennsylvania, most likely in the next 6 to 12 months.
Yeah.
And you will see it in bars and restaurants and all this. And I think that it's really great that I didn't have to pitch you this, because I had more brewers and distillers and wineries in Pennsylvania need to realize this could be a life-saving opportunity to generate revenue.
It's not the enemy. It's like the U.S. government is giving us another alcohol industry, like, in our lap. And it's like, it's going to become like an extension of the alcohol brand. And it's just like, nobody else, you're already producing alcohol. This is a golden egg that we're going to be given. And it's kind of like this crazy opportunity that's coming in the next 6 months. And I don't think people realize it.
So can you break down the law that's going to
change? The hemp law. Also, can you explain exactly what the hemp law is? Yeah. Or the Farm Bill?
Yeah. So the Farm Bill basically allows anything from 0.3%. But I don't want to get into the specifics of that, because that when it gets real scientific about how combustibles and all that, I would refer to other people as far as that goes. But when you follow the hemp bill, basically you're allowed to produce a certain dry weight, and that's pre-combustible, pre-water soluble. So think of water soluble THC as like your yeast, and that creates your alcohol. It's basically everything else is almost the same, as far as if you're making an RTD. Obviously, there's no resting period like beer. You put it in, you mix it in, it's done same day, like a twisted tea or malt beverage or anything like that. But you can also take it in a different form. So in a non-water soluble form, then you're taking it into a gummy. And that gummy can be anywhere from, any degree of dosage, and just like the drinks. So you can range your dosage anywhere from 5 milligrams to 2 milligrams, all the way up. I was in New Jersey and I saw 1,000 milligram bottle. Where things are going legislatively is like a 5 milligram and a 10 milligram, potentially a 20 milligram, which is also good. Where you can see comparatively to the beer industry would be a 5 milligrams, like a straight Pilsner, 4 and a 4.5, 5% ABV. Then a 10 milligrams probably going to get to like an IPA. So you're in the 7 to 9% range. Then you get to your 20 milligram. That's where you're getting into up towards the wine, and you're getting towards like your shot and everything like that. So that's kind of how the progression comparative to alcohol goes with the hemp stuff.
But I guess the farm bill specifically is like you can't just sell weed, but you can sell like you can sell like the hemp, not the flower.
Correct.
And there is some THC in that. So like the farm bill is like you're able to use this to produce goods that are hemp derived, but there is THC in that. So then you can like concentrate and make a hemp derived product with.
And you got to remember, too, the products that you're talking about, too, is when you talk about the different strains of hemp versus the medical marijuana and recreational marijuana. Yeah. For example, like a 5 milligram, can of this. I'm not sure what this one is. But for example, like if you're, you're out the back alley and you're smoking a joint from the recreational marijuana, that's 150 milligram on average in that joint, on an average joint. So you would have to drink a 30 rack of 5 milligram, those things, in order to get the same buzz you would have from the dispensary. So it's really kind of one of those things where the industry also needs to kind of recorrect itself as far as the finger pointing, because you have to talk about two different consumers. A consumer that's going to smoke a joint and go buy from the dispensary is not going to be the same consumer that's going to buy 5 milligram. The tolerances are different, and the whole experiences are different. What a lot of brands have seen, I won't mention the brands I've spoken to, but a lot of founders have told me that the beverages that they put into dispensary networks all have failed, and they've ended up pulling them back because it's not the right consumer. That consumer is going somewhere else. It's also the same consumer that's taking a break from beer and taking a break from RTDs. That's where they're grabbing this, because they don't necessarily want to have 6 or 7 or 5 or 6 or whatever the number may be. They like to insert these every once in a while to kind of keep everything going and mellow things out. And some are using it for Cali Sober. So it's one of those things where people are, like myself, next week I'll be 3 years sober from alcohol. I have no problem with alcohol. I sell it all day long. I personally, myself has a problem with alcohol. I sell it and I love it, and I'll never leave the industry. But this product is one where people like me were able to, I'll stop clapping actually. I just realized that.
No, you're fine. You're not.
Yeah. So we, one thing for me for this industry is that actual water soluble, that THC doesn't affect me the same way. Like I'll have 1 or 2 of these, and then might be 2 more weeks before I have another one. So it also changes the habit as well, because it's not at the same kind of psychological, scientific kind of thing that alcohol does. So this isn't a conversation of worse or better, because I want to be clear about that. I'm not somebody that says alcohol is the danger and you got to run. That's not it at all. It's a different consumer and it's a different experience. And just like you said, it's a lifeline to these manufacturing channels that we can able to expand our audience, and a tap room might be able to have. Here's my dream, and I'll be really honest with you. It's somebody that has experiences in the past 6 to 8 months is somebody who's sober, being able to come to a brewery with their friends and have something that they might want, and then all of a sudden they might be able to start reconnecting friendships with each other. Like that's the dream of what I see with these products, is a bridge where people can actually be able to start hanging out with each other and maybe take out some of that social anxiety that exists in gathering in groups, especially going out and re-emerging out into, social areas like that.
Yeah.
As far as tap rooms, they're not able to serve these types of drinks right now.
Not right now, but what's going in the bill is that.
Okay.
So it would be able to be sold. They would buy basically like New Jersey is. It's a hemp extension permit off their liquor license.
Okay.
So anybody, just like the RTD permits, I think there's 3,200 or something like that, whatever the number is that's sold in the past year. So it's a bolt on to your existing liquor license.
But like the alcohol industry is like specifically set up for this, because a normal startup entrepreneur is just like, all right, you are now in charge of selling like a controlled substance, is like a big pill to swallow, no pun intended, as far as, like how are they supposed to handle it?
Yep.
And, like the regulations, and like also just being bought into like, I will follow the laws. And for the last, like basically since prohibition, like we have been like hammered that like these laws for alcohol are so strict. We're set up, the distribution channels are very strict, the taxation is very strict, and like we're basically set up perfectly for like we can handle this new intoxicating substance
And from a safety standpoint, we're already built for it as well because we're an age-gated network. We already
Exactly.
all the bartenders are tip certified. What's this? This is a bolt-on to your tip certification. We're going to put you in another 2-hour or 90-minute course. We're going to run through this, be able to pay attention to what's going on, teach people the dosages and what it all means, things to look out for. No one in this industry that's advocating for the regulation is looking to skate by that regulation. We're choosing to be in an age-gated area. There's a brand that's a large brand that's produced here in Pennsylvania that actually doesn't even sell to retailers in Pennsylvania because there's no regulation. So like we're losing. Let's take out the experience of the product. Let's talk about the state government and the fact that we need a revenue stream, and this is projected to be a $1.5 billion annual industry in Pennsylvania.
And the governor, friend of the podcast, also loves THC industry. So I think that he's going to be and he loves the brewing industry. So I think that he is going to be very, I mean, he wouldn't obviously, I don't know where he stands, but I would imagine that he's going to be very favorable in its one, getting it legalized, and two, making it support the breweries.
It makes sense. I mean, we're one of the strongest brewing states in the country. We're one of the highest consumers of alcohol in the country from a purchasing standpoint. We should be one of the premier states in the country to be doing this.
Yeah. So can you explain a little bit, another reason why it's weird, like alcohol laws changed by state, but it's even more different for these hemp-derived beverages.
Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit kind of like what the differences are for each state?
Yeah, certain states are similar, a little bit more similar. So you have like New Jersey and West Virginia have kind of similar things where it's a bolt-on to a liquor license. Also, the vape shops and things like that are allowed to buy those as well. And then they also have dispensary systems down there, and it's distributed through the beer wholesalers. So West Virginia, I think New Jersey is as well. Now, I don't want to speak because you guys are going to release this in a couple weeks, and Ohio is like literally every other day seems to be changing. Like, so I don't want to speak on what the exact.
But Ohio has always been in front of Pennsylvania.
It's always in front of Pennsylvania, but they're segmenting a lot of things, and it's nothing about the basically. Again, it's like nothing about the beverages, but they're like fighting over gummies and public consumption, where basically they're trying to X out public consumption, which everybody in the industry is about. We don't want people walking down the street, certain townships and stuff like that, drinking in public is fine, but overall, we don't want that in society. You know what I mean? Like,
I've talked to all these people in the last couple weeks, and everyone's like, "This is going to become illegal."
Yeah,
but I'm like, yeah, but it has to have it can't be legitimate without some sort of regulation.
Well, it also can't. The other thing is, from a business owner standpoint, without the descheduling and actually descheduling of it federally, and also for anything to happen federally. The crazy thing is, like, we think about the craft beer industry. Imagine the craft beer industry without federal bank financing.
Yeah.
That's what is going on here. Like, this industry is cash strapped to, like, everybody's amazed at what they've done. You'd be amazed to know how they stretched a dollar to make it happen. This is all this entire industry is almost privately funded because banks would not fund it. Mm-hmm. Finding point of sale system is challenging. Finding processing systems is challenging.
Yeah, and I think like the hemp derived stuff is different, but I know people that have like CBD companies and they can't. They basically had to shut down business because their bank accounts that were running through PayPal were shut down.
And imagine if like you could just if you as a business owner didn't have to worry about waking up every day that your bank account was going to be frozen. For no reason other than today, the bank just decided to do that because they decided to read the law and exercise that, or the non-law that existed. All they want is guidance.
Yeah.
Like, nobody's standing up saying, no, we don't want any laws. It's like, make the laws so we can get funded and we can blow these businesses up like we need to.
Yeah. I'm the type of guy, maybe it's because I had strict parents growing up, but like, I'm always looking for like assurance. Like, can I do this? It's like, I was never one to just like break some eggs and see what happens. I'm like, I wish it was just kind of like, they told me what to do and then I could just do it instead of like trying to figure out what to do. So like I'm looking forward to like the structure of it.
Yeah, it was interesting when the federal extension or kind of ban came through, and then now it's looking like it's going to be an extension on that federal ban. We had 3 chains of convenience and grocery stores in Pennsylvania that were ready to roll out in December. And then the day that happened, 3 hours after the announcement came, I got phone calls from all of them. They were like, "Hey, we're going to hit the pause button." Now, all of a sudden, that they're seeing some movement happen and the work we're doing in Harrisburg, they're getting ready to probably activate again. So you're going to see, most likely by June, you'll start seeing categories start popping up in non-licensed areas. So you'll start seeing them in different grocery stores where it's not in the beer cafe, it'll be down the street. Yeah.
in the same premises.
I'll give you an example that
Like-
already exists. Yeah, Redner's, for example.
It would
yeah.
be sold in the same store, just not in the same section.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So different registers, like the old school way they would do things at the gas stations when they first did gas at Sheets or beer at Sheets and all that. It had to be at one register.
Right now, like the Pennsylvania State Police has put a hard stop, and the PLCB has basically said like you cannot sell hemp derived beverages where there's alcohol being served.
Correct, and that's where then the next part comes into like a grocery store where the hemp products are down a few aisles over, and then
next
the
to the
licensed
Cheetos.
area is not the licensed area. You know what I mean? So that's where it all gets to be that funny game of real estate inside of what really is the same location.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Is it besides tap rooms? Is it going to be the same thing for bars and just like
Yeah, it would be a bolt-on. Yep, it'd be a bolt-on license and things like that. And we've already met with Breweries of Pennsylvania. We sat down with Hannah and Adam and all that stuff, and we're advocating with this is going to be a massive joint venture that we're going to be going out with, and we really. You know, when I say joint venture, I don't mean in a literal sense as much as I mean in the advocacy sense that this benefits everybody. Like I think everybody has to be at a place where we see the consumer and the society has changed the way they drink, and it's time to follow the consumer and go where the consumer is. You know?
I think in the next year or so, the Fritz bill will pass where like then all alcohol consumers, because it's so stupid how it's segmented. Like we talked to the last couple episodes, like the fuck is the difference between like an 8% beer versus an 8% wine versus an 8% RTD?
Yeah, really.
Same
I
product.
enjoyed that conversation, by the way.
Danny Childs is great.
Yeah.
But it's alcohol. Like at the end of the day, like who cares if it's made from like grapes or malt? And like as long as people understand how to manage that safely, like the these products, I think that's what's most important. And like, with everybody coming together, like the alcohol industry is willing to kind of follow those rules. I think it just makes sense for us.
Well, it's funny. I feel the same way with you, like when you're talking like our last conversation about like it's all alcohol, because it's like we almost bit ourselves in the ass a little bit because we spent so much time like building craft beers, like this experience, and this sophisticated thing, and now we're like, no, we're just like everybody else. It's all good, and it's like, but it's true because we did that, and it's like. And it worked, and it worked because it was true and it was genuine and it was what it was. And now like it's just wild because the consumer base in society today, the hemp society do the same thing. Like they have to do it completely differently. Like we react to how we have to adapt.
Well, like
to
the craft beer revolution happened before the distilling revolution, which was like it was like probably like 100 times or 10 times faster than the craft brewing revolution. And I imagine the hemp revolution, when it like kind of like all starts to happen, is going to be 10 times faster than that,
And with the way digital media is and things like that today, like that's the thing is I'm proud of how all these guys have bootstrapped this type of stuff. I just can't wait until they have like proper marketing budgets, proper education, proper training, things like that. They're able to do tasting events and then all of a sudden be able to expose those brands to so many more people, and who knows where it goes. But I know there's nowhere it's going to go. There's no way it's going to go backwards because it's not just a Pennsylvania thing. That's what a lot of people need to realize. Like this is going on across the country.
Yeah, I think
like
80% of people in the U.S. Agree that medical marijuana should be legalized, and I think it's like 60% of people or 55% of people think that recreational weed, and that's like all of the United States. So like 80% of anything is crazy, and then like to get your foot in the door as far as medical marijuana, then it's just a matter of time before recreational marijuana becomes legalized.
Well, and there's a big thing too that a lot of people don't realize is these hemp products are really drawing in for veterans as well. So veterans don't like to get medical licenses because they would lose their Second Amendment right.
Yeah.
And so they don't sign up for the medical card, and they don't want to be in the system, but they also don't want to go.
But you lose your Second Amendment right?
Yeah, you can in certain states you can lose your gun. You can lose your gun rights if you have a medical marijuana license. And then also to the point of where they don't want to go the pill route, and they don't want to go with that to help with their PTSD. That the VFW or the American Legion, I can't remember which one, actually did a national partnership with Torch, which is a THC drink company, where they allowed those to be sold in every VFW or American Legion across the country. So there's a lot of other layers to this that it's serving.
Like the card processing companies is like a huge thing. Like I'm sure Stripe or Bolt or any of these like online brands, like I don't know if like I think maybe for hemp they're allowed to do it, but I don't think that they can process like THC. Like a lot of these brands, unless they're it's federally all legit, they're not going to be.
Oh, it's challenging to find processors.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're all independents and everything like that. None of the big brands typically do it. And if you do it, the insurance is not really there if something happens.
Also insurance. And insurance is another thing. Like I use Kyle Reiner. And, a lot of most other kind of alcohol brands do that. But it's like there's specific alcohol insurance companies. And I imagine that the list of, hemp or marijuana insurance companies is much smaller than the alcohol insurance companies.
At the moment, it is. It is. And it's because of that federal piece as well. Because also for another level, distributors also have trouble getting the bolt on to their existing licenses because you got to remember a distributor is held federally accountable through their ID license with the TTB and all that.
So the 3-tier system, I would imagine that the same thing is going to happen with marijuana. I think that a lot of over the years, people have grown frustrated with the 3-tier system, but me personally, I'm like, I love my distributor, but I think a lot of craft breweries, I think like distributors as this like bad thing, like it doesn't because you're like kind of locked in on these contracts. But I'm like, yeah, but if those weren't there, then you couldn't even open because you wouldn't be able to compete with these people. It's like a necessary, I don't want to say evil, but it's necessary to kind of like for the health of the industry. And I think it makes sense to give the distributors the rights to then distribute it as well.
It is because at the end of the day, if the distributor doesn't have their brand rights to the product, the distributor can't invest in the product.
Exactly.
But on the flip side, if you're with a distributor that's not properly invested in the product, then no, they don't deserve to have the brand rights to your product.
Yeah.
So it is a catch-22 where both it's one of those things where it goes from, let's say, the legacy generational thing to basically you have to actually have a business contract with somebody. And if they're not holding up to your end of the contract and they're not holding up to theirs, then the business contract needs to be broken.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be some overarching thing because at the end of the day, that's one of the issues where not all distributors, but there are distributors that didn't always follow up with what they were supposed to do contractually. And they got to lean on those laws and they got to lean on those perpetuity contracts and leverage that. And that was really unfortunate to see. And for a lot of craft breweries over the past few years to get stuck in certain areas where the distributor was not performing and they weren't able to get and switch out distributors for another one. So those things, I'm on both sides because I spent it there. Yeah.
Do you hear anything? What is it? The National Beer Wholesalers Association? Do you hear like what is their stance? And like, are they in the conversation as far as like, are they going to be involved?
I have not directly spoken to them. We work with the Hemp Beverage Alliance, which is the national association for that. They have said that they've been in conversations. And obviously every beer and alcohol wholesaler wants these THC products. The other thing where they have the benefit to it is, though, there is no distribution network for, that kind of stuff. A lot of these marijuana areas are multi-state operations that do their own distribution and all kinds of stuff. So there's not a lot of like cannabis independent distributors.
I want the wholesalers. Yeah. My business relies on wholesalers. And
we want that because we want it age gated.
It's standardized and it's been there for years and years.
And here's the other thing. Here's the dirty part about the business. It's not dirty in a corruption way. It's a dirty in a recall way. Is if beer distributors didn't exist from a quality standpoint, I can tell you the amount. I'm not going to name the breweries, but the amount of recalls that I've done while working in wholesale distribution, and we were able to in seconds. I mean, not seconds, literally, but days in the world of that, clear an entire market. Get all the batches up, clear the market, get the product out before anybody got sick, save so many people so much time. And these breweries in our backroom meetings were so appreciative of it because they know in the grand scheme of some knew and some didn't, in the grand scheme of things, how much more expensive that could have been if they didn't have that. So it's one of those things with distributors, and I appreciate what you're saying, is it's sometimes those moments when you're not paying attention is when they really come in clutch.
Everyone says like, yeah, but you can save 30% if you distribute yourself. I'm like, yeah, but I also don't want to open up a separate business as just a distributor. It doesn't make sense to me. I've said this before. I've heard this from somebody else. First time entrepreneurs worry about product and design. Second time entrepreneurs worry about distribution. And that's really, if your distribution is not there, you're fucked. You can't grow at all. And here we have this this distribution network that's perfectly set up for us.
It's turnkey. Yeah. I mean, you the thing that happens is 100% of the time, there's not bad distributors out there. There's just bad brands with with the wrong distributors. That's what it is every time.
Yeah.
Is if you were with the right distributor, and I'll be honest too, a lot of brewers, distillers, all these people, a lot of guys don't do their homework ahead of time, and they sign these contracts because they're excited that somebody's interested in their product and wants to sell them. And I feel for them too, because it might be a time where they're in survival mode and they need that payday of the COD delivery. But that perpetuity, they're not do your homework. Interview these distributors before you sign these contracts, because there are great distributors out there, but just do the work. The amount of times where it's like first call and they go right and sign the contract, it makes me nervous.
And I think the times where people do get screwed over is like few and far between. I think most people, it is a great relationship that they have.
It is. That's the thing is it's not as dark as everybody makes it out to be. And in all honesty, like I've been to a lot of these things and spent 20 years in the industry, and like when you see the relationships that work, they're best friends. I mean, I've seen brand managers be best men at brewers' weddings and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like there's an unspoken bond that doesn't get a lot of attention in this industry when that comes to that stuff.
Is there another party out there petitioning for like the rights to distribute such?
Yeah, who's against us? Like,
there's nothing really against the beer distributors, but it's interesting. There is a movement, and I'm an unaffiliated voter, so I don't choose political sides. But there's a movement of putting hemp-derived THC products in the same building as alcohol will begin the demise of civilization as we know it. So that's the opposition at this point as far as that goes. And I do mean to pick on it because it's exactly the same place we were with Sheetz when they Sheetz wanted to, and Wawa wanted to carry beer. And in Pennsylvania, we were afraid if you filled up your gas and then you bought the beer and then you drove your car, you couldn't possibly drive home without consuming all of that beer on your way home. So like these avoidant laws that really find really funny in Pennsylvania and other states too. Like it's not just Pennsylvania. There's some funny laws about how people believe that we're incapable of functioning as human beings, I think sometimes.
Yeah, it's like beer distributors sell, a lot of them sell cigs and then they sell alcohol. Like I don't smoke, but like nicotine is the same thing as caffeine, same thing as alcohol. It's like it's just when you take like a 10,000 foot look of it, it's just like it's a molecule that is like, changes you
start distilling it down,
state of mind.
Most of us start our day changing our mindset with coffee.
Yeah.
Like that's literally, when you distill it down to the molecule level, it's all a changing mindset.
Yeah. And, all those places are kind of sold in the same space. So like, why are we not sticking this new molecule, in the same space?
And it's also just the irony is, and I will pick on that opposition, is the irony is that they cry for safety and children's safety, but that's where you want. Why would you want that product with somebody that knows how to card somebody that's 21, knows what the driver's license look like, knows when somebody's intoxicated and they're overserved and needs an Uber called, knows when the cop, knows when somebody ODs and they know how to use Narcan. Like these are all real life.
That has a history of paying their taxes and, like doing things the right way.
Yeah. And that's what it comes from.
Structure's all set up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's turnkey. It's honestly turnkey, and it's the safest way to do it from a quality standpoint for everybody. Yeah.
So you're saying like this is going to happen in like next 6 to 12 months, but like what needs to happen? Like, are there other bills that are coming through the state legislature? Is it a federal thing, or like what do you foresee is going to happen? Also, both as far as like legalization and then also as far as regulation for the cans.
So the bill that we're working on is Senator Malagari and
MPA?
Yes, in Pennsylvania over in Harrisburg, and that is being drafted and being distributed internally by the end of this calendar year. So that's one of the confidences that I have in our progress of where it is we will have most likely a numbered bill in January. So by the time this releases, it might even be already public by the time this episode drops.
Cool.
Because we would have a House bill numbered, and then that would begin our process, which is we're working with all these organizations and manufacturers. What you'll see is a big statewide campaign, basically online signatures and petitions. So we'll be doing targeted founder stories and videos that drive call to action, trying to get PA residents to sign the petition to then push this bill through and really get it from a grassroots.
Like New Jersey just went through this with, we just had Icarus Brewing on with like sign the bill, Phil.
That's
so kind of same way, like getting this grassroots movement. So they have Eric Orlando over there. Kind of getting people to like tell their story, and exactly what you're doing with alcohol.
That's exactly
getting people to tell their story and say, hey, this is not the boogeyman behind here. This is our I can open my doors up and show you how the whole entire process works, and I can show you kind of a safe way that this will happen.
Nope. Yeah, and ours is called I Want My THC, and that'll be iwantmythd.com. It's now it's coming soon at this moment, but
cool.
That's what the campaign will be called, and we'll run statewide. Yeah,
cool.
So
awesome. So like, what can people do? Do you reach out to your? I mean, everyone says like reach out to your senator. Who actually reaches out to your senator? Like,
well, it's a great thing to do. It really, as far as what people can do, is exactly that. When we launch the website, we'll have all the listing of the senators that need the calls and the emails, and we'll have inside the website. It'll have a place where the email will be super easy. You just go in, put your zip code in, put your registration in, and then it'll push the emails out to these people and connect through there, as well as the phone numbers and everything like that. Calling is really effective. Like, people really don't call enough. So when you do call a place, like, that really stands out. You're not going to necessarily get through to a senator, but you're going to be able to call their staffer. They're going to log that. And what happens is, over time, every person that's elected wants to be voted in. So over time, if they get enough pressure of a volume and they realize something's going on, they have to listen to their constituents. Now, are we in a world that not everybody listens to their constituents? Yeah, I'm not naive. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I think we have a really good group here that we're working with on both sides. We've met with about 20 or 30 senators and things like that in Harrisburg so far. And we have a good group that I think is going to co-sponsor this bill coming up in January. So it's no longer a concept. By the end of this month, we'll have the bill. And then in about a month, about this time that this launches, we'll have a numbered bill.
Nice. So also, like, I guess when these hemp-derived beverages are produced, kind of the process is like, it gets made, and then you need to submit something to, is it the state or federally, basically saying that it passes the farm bill, and it needs to get tested for THC and calories or whatever.
Oh, it goes. Yeah. The testing actually is more in depth than the testing that we deal with in the alcohol industry. Theirs goes all the way to bacteria, metals, outside foreign entities,
and
all kinds of
I
stuff.
think all that is great, but I think by far the most important thing is people are looking at, like, does this have the amount of THC that it says it does?
Well, and that's what you find out in there, and that's what the difference is. So most of these brands, this is a self-regulation point, is a lot of times, like in alcohol, we would use this for a YouTube video. If you scan this will take you to the COA, which is the Certificate of Analysis, and it'll show you
do all the brands have that?
All of them do, because it's a self-regulation of the industry that we pressure each other to keep this going. So
but it's for each batch. So then do you have to change you
change the QR code for the different batches and things like that. Yeah. So you can do it for each batch. But the thing is, that's also part of the regulation. Is that's not that's part of the 2018 Farm Bill. To be compliant federally, you have to have a COA. So when we go and sell into retailers right now that are not licensees, let's say they're not liquor licensees, but they're able, because anybody that's not a liquor licensee in Pennsylvania can sell hemp-derived products. That's something a lot of people don't realize. But because the law is in reverse, it's anybody, like anybody from a coffee shop to anywhere else, can actually sell the product. Where you don't see it is we don't push it in those places because we want to stay in age-gated areas. So unfortunately, that puts us into vape shops and smoke shops.
I think it'll be like that for the next 6 months, just for people to kind of push their brand out. But long term, this needs to be in the beer stores.
And that's what it's going to be. And that's what I'm trying to say, is you won't see it in a lot of these places because they're not made. There's not the point.
Yeah.
And nobody...
It's like the same places that are starting to create them.
And that's kind of what I'm getting at is like, the fact is, it's a green light that we could be anywhere we want to be. And I think people need to realize we could be if we wanted to be, but we choose not to be. Because we don't believe that's
not long term.
And that's not the channel we should be in. And that's kind of where I think that's where everybody's like, well, I don't see it very often. It's like, it's actually by choice.
Yeah.
So if you look around where it is actually regulated the proper way, that's where all the brands are. They're all, I mean, New Jersey has every single brand that you can imagine. You drive right over that bridge and it's there.
Jeff, it's crazy.
You walk in and it's the massive gondola. When you walk in, it's checkout, it's everywhere, and that's where it's going to look like pretty soon.
Yeah, it's interesting. And it kind of like same way that there's some like food brands that do like the kind of certified as like farm to table or whatever. Like I think it'll ease a lot of people's minds when they see this can, and it's not like this is just some crazy person says 10 milligrams, but like this one might be 0, this one might be 1,000. Like each can, which I've been told that like what really the breakthrough with these things was they were able to kind of figure out a way with some like emulsification
The
thing.
water soluble that I was talking about at the beginning.
Yeah.
It allows it not to. So before we were using the actual, if you guys have ever smoked weed or anything like that, you have the resin in the bowl.
Yeah.
It was like a cakey stickiness that would stick to the inside of the can, but the water emulsion spreads it out equally throughout the can. So the entire dose. Not
Which
everybody's.
changes things because
Yeah.
the way alcohol works is alcohol is a perfect spreader. Where like if you make something with alcohol, it almost immediately becomes entirely the same percentage of alcohol. Which this in the past, you know, you might eat a weed brownie and like one is much different than the other.
Golden ticket right there.
Exactly. You might like
That's for damn sure.
yeah.
I think I had a bachelor party downtown one time where that might have happened.
Yeah, but it where the technology changes and it ensures that each one is the same, and then it gets tested to ensure that. I think that's another thing that people get scared about. That you know, you guys are preemptive about it, or in the
majority.
we will be preemptive about it,
Yeah.
about like, you know, how to ensure that that's kind of the same.
And it's not cheap. Like these tests aren't like $19.99. I mean, they're $500 to $1,000 depending on what state you're in.
Yeah.
So it's an expensive thing for each batch, each SKU.
And where's that? And you send it to where? Is it?
It goes to a third-party independent lab that is all certified to do all this stuff, and then they bring it back. It's not a guy driving up to your place in a van.
Yeah.
So,
But it's not a government thing. It's like
no, they're independent agencies and things like that. Yeah,
okay. And,
they're all
And kind of everyone's in the same line that, like, you know, if this becomes legalized, then it would kind of stay those, or would a government agency kind of take this over?
That part's out of like my purview as far as that goes, but nobody's resisting. They don't really mind where it is, but everybody wants the testing because it's one of those things where with any product, without that testing in there, you know, we need some sort of guy, like everybody needs, let's say the weeding out the bad actors.
Yeah.
'Cause that's what weeds out the bad actors. Right now, without that, they're able to push everything out in volume. That's the brands you see that are like cartoons, and it does. It looks like, you know, Smarties, and it looks like Fruit Loops, and it looks like all that stuff. Those are the bad actors that my portfolio and those we work with, we don't want them in there.
Yeah, it's
they're synthetic products. It's not even real.
Only been like
It's not even real.
Do something like that.
It's not even real. It's
Yeah.
not even a real product. And like you said, we have another term in the industry called seed to sale. And basically, you take if you look at my photos the other day, it was a Moonflower down in Buckhannon, West Virginia. And those girls, it's a mom and dad, and then their two daughters. They grow everything and make their own gummies, make their own flowers. Best saltwater taffy you're ever going to have down there too. So if you ever want to drive around rural West Virginia and get a little buzz going afterwards at the hotel, you know.
That's fun. Are there certain states that are kind of leading? Is New Jersey one of the leading states?
New Jersey's definitely the leading state, and
Even one like Colorado or California?
yeah,
I heard
because
Delaware is pretty popular.
Delaware's growing up there, and actually, what's going on too is like Connecticut has a different law where it's like I believe it's 2.5 or 3.5 milligrams is the top there. So then certain brands are like creating cans just for that, kind of like in the beer industry, we make like Utah beers and everything like that. And then New Jersey, what I'm hearing the last like 2 weeks is New Jersey jumping up to like top 1 and 2 of a lot of different manufacturers that are across the country. Wow. So New Jersey, once in June is when they started to do the regulation. And once that regulation came through, it was like open the floodgates. There's an interesting statistic too from the CEO recently of Total Wine.
Yeah.
And he was talking about I think it was like talking about all of his stores. And he said that out of the hemp-derived TA, like hemp-infused products that are in their store, and they have like, I mean, huge gondolas in Total Wine right now.
People don't realize how big Total Wine is nationwide, because in PA, like, we're so
It's the
insulated.
largest private liquor store, I think. Like,
And it's all across the country. My roommate sells cognac just at Total Wine, nationwide account.
Yeah.
And it's only at the one store is like his whole sales territory.
And that CEO, he said that out of those customers, 30% of those hemp THC customers have never even walked into Total Wine before. And then on top of that, he said the hemp THC, I believe it's 25 or 28% of their total volume right now is just hemp infused products. And that tracks because the liquor stores, on average, when I survey them, the liquor stores, it's about 28 to 30% of their revenue right now in New Jersey.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think if you're listening to this and you want to support the brewing industry, the best way to support it is, yes, you can go out and buy it, but kind of what's holding them back right now is like the RTD, especially in Pennsylvania, RTDs are allowed in beer distributors, and the Fritz bill will hopefully fix that, where then breweries are able to make distilled products on their own on the same premises. And then this bill, I don't know specifically what the name is, but this bill will then fix the other problem of like you're not able to sell that. And like we have an answer right in front of us. And like I think a lot of the woes that people are feeling right now through little elbow grease and, like talking to your senator, like, all these might get solved in the next 6-12 months.
Yeah, it seems like it's going in that direction. That's kind of the hope there, because if everybody can just kind of keep the pace there, and we'll have all our stuff rolling out too when that website drops. It'll be all the education, progress, everything like that, as far as who to call, who to find, who to grab by the shoulder and shake him around in the back of the bar, whatever you got to do. So
nice, cool. I mean, do you have any questions?
Man, I learned so much during this episode. This is fantastic. I
texted them after I talked to you. I was just like, we're having Nate on. Like, I think you guys are going to be surprised. It's going to be like a very information filled, but like it'll be an exciting episode. And I think a lot of our listeners, I told you, like, I just driving around, it kind of came to me that like, this is not the enemy. This is something that, and it was you posted that. And I told you, like, I texted Evan. And then really just, I saw Hannah posting about it in the BOP. And I was just like, even the Brewers Association was like down in like Washington D.C. talking about stuff. I'm like, I don't understand the perspective, and then it dawned on me that like this is like we're going to be the ones that benefit from this. So I think it'll open the minds of a lot of our listeners. But like this is something that they have not been thinking about at all. This is coming, and it's coming very quickly. So, we need to be ready for it. We should be excited for it.
It's super exciting. That's exactly it. It's there's no downside to this. It can reignite kind of, but something that's kind of been tampered out a little bit as far as the excitement and innovation, and start getting people back out of their house and start getting people out at bars and restaurants and breweries and distilleries.
Yeah. And I don't think that it takes away from brewing. Like, I think that what a lot of people would think is just like, there's a lot of things right now that are like the enemy, but this is something that can kind of work hand in hand with us. So where can we go to support you, to follow you? I know you have a couple podcasts. Yeah. You want to shout them out?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we have readytodrinkpodcast.com. You can check out all of our episodes on there, and then the leadersarenapodcast.com. I do that with former UFC and Bellator fighter Clifford Starks. I believe his name in the ring was Big Cat. And so we do like leading with empathy. We interview CEOs and founders all around the country, internationally, and things like that, going through their story. Literally, we go all the way to childhood. Some of the episodes might feel like a therapy session every once in a while, but we shed some tears together. And then Ready to Drink is really, it's similar to what you guys are doing. It's focusing on the founder stories, really getting down to the weeds of everything, to where and the same thing there. We go right to childhood. We go all the way to their entrepreneurial story, really get to the grit and the grind and the resilience. And the big thing is, I'm not excited that much about, anything that anybody that hasn't struggled. That's one of those things where it's like, if you haven't struggled, you're either not being honest or you had everything handed to you. And that's one of the things and I like the format you guys have, because it's similar to ours, is that you get a genuine conversation without the prep, without the scripts, without the questions. And you don't know what's going to happen. So it's actually a filter out the assholes, where nobody's going to jump on a podcast and not know the questions if they don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that I've really, the past 3 years, we've done over 200 episodes, and it's just really been an amazing experience of like learning about myself, as well as like just meeting so many people, through so many different industries and different countries and everything like that. So
cool.
Yeah.
Go give it a listen. It's great. It's how I got connected to you, and I'm glad I talked to you last week. This was a very fun episode. I think people are going to like it.
Yeah, it's a blast.
Cool.
Thanks, guys.
And then you can find us at Brewdat, at the Brewdat Podcast, at Space Cadet Beer. Subscribe on YouTube.
5-star, Spotify.
Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all that jazz. We'll see you guys next week.